That is not what I said to do. Got it.
Sometimes it will say, so we're on live now, but that's okay. Because, we're real raw and uncut. Okay, so welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, thank you so much. This is Ian Sousa, founder of Healing the Global Village and owner of Global Firewalk Institute and the creator to Soulful Mondays. I have with me here Judith, and I have not met you until actually a couple minutes ago. So as I say here in Soulful Mondays, so this is real, raw, and uncut. We're live, and there's no pre-recording of anything. And sometimes for me, even with the podcast guests. So you were referred to me by my admin student, becoming a good friend, Sage Moffat. Thank you so much, Sage. She speaks very highly of you. And I guess what we can say is we know at 11:11 the alarm will go off and we'll have a prayer for humanity's soul. 1 minute. Thank you so much. And really, thank you for being here and being a healer practitioner, doing the work out in the world and bringing your gifts here on Soulful Mondays. So I'm excited because for you guests that are here live now and those that will watch this later, I'm also going to learn about Judith because I have a practice and a discipline. Actually, this is a true story. When I go to new geographic places like India, Brazil, wherever I go in the world, I don't read anything about it. And I also do this discipline for myself. When I meet somebody, I don't intellectually read about you first or know a people, a culture, a geography until I experience them. So it works for me soulfully, and it's a great discipline I've had for the last, I don't know, 15 years. So I'm going to say, I'm honored and blessed to have the mystery of you be here truly, because I know, like I said, Sage, she would just periodically, we'd be in a piece of work or medicine or something, and she'd be like, oh, I gotta have you meet Judith. Yeah, you and Judith gotta get together. And so she sees, the two of us, and that's all I need. That's truly all I need because of who Sage Moffat is in my life and your life. And this is so beautiful because we have the links, right? There's people that are linking people and collaboration and just building, what we're building, which is bringing our gifts to the world and however we do it. So we're now at 11:11. So let's, I guess, before you introduce yourself, we'll have that moment. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. On that one. Okay, Judith. So, introduce yourself. First, last name. Where are you from? And it's interesting. I've never thought of this on Soulful Mondays, but I think we're just gonna add this. Tell me also the last digit of your birth year, so I can start to, Interesting. You're the first one I ever just got this message. I mean, I do this all the time in the Dagra medicine, the elemental, but here you are. You're already bringing you medicine. Got a couple little messages about you already. So come on, let's go, sister. Bring it on.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to Sage. I always trust Sage's intuition because of who she is and the beautiful soul. If she feels it, that's all I need. I have a deep
Me
trust
too.
in knowing and that
Yeah.
connection. But to start with introducing myself, my name is Judith Figeroa, and I'm located in Boston, Massachusetts. My family is from Puerto Rican background, from the island of Puerto Rico in the Caribbean. And I'm a, so in Spanish, I'll have trick of the words here because I'm trying to get these words, which I'm having issues with, but to bring them all together because they all mean the same. It just depends which one you perceive to understand, or people. So I'm a curandera, spiritual healer, spiritual worker, mentor, and I've been working for like the past 20 years. Well, developing since I was a baby, but working with people in my mid-teens. And the you said the last digit of my birth year, it's a 2.
Yes. Less. So yeah, so you're fire. You're the gateway to the spirit world. Okay, we're gonna add this to Soulful Mondays, I guess. Thank you.
Oh, I'm a fire sign too, so it's it's good.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, in not so that I leave you hanging, but maybe at some point, because I've never thought to ask that question with the Soulful Monday podcast guest, but maybe I'll do another sequence talking about what's those elements and what's that numerology and all of that. But for now, what we know is you're the gatekeeper to the spirit world, and that is based on the indigenous medicine of Malidoma Some, West African shaman of the Dagra, which I'm initiated as an elder in. So, okay, beautiful. So tell us a little bit more of what you I can't say those words back, but tell us what you were referencing in the language there.
Okay. So a curandera is the Spanish word just to say healer.
Okay.
And so I add folk healer, spiritual healer, because that's the main way that I work. My path has been long and everything that's still left to be done. But yeah, 20 years is long. And, I've had different teachers, and my traditions, the original traditions are from the island of Puerto Rico, and because it's Puerto Rico, we are a melting pot. So I just have a mixture of these Western African traditions, native and indigenous people, and also the magic from my Spaniard lineage from Spain, and every little thing in between, right? Because spirit is just everything. We just, depending where we are, we just get the tools to access it, but there's multiple doors and gateways to the same place. So I've led a quite a journey to reclaim these gifts, because unfortunately, where I come from, due to colonization and everything that has come through, it's unfortunate, but these ancestral healing traditions aren't embraced. They're not looked on as what they are, but people try to stray away from them for a multitude of reasons.
And so when you say these ancestral gifts, well, first, can you say you said that you are here to reclaim?
Yes.
I'm gonna ring the bell for that. I just find it fascinating, like Soulful Mondays, folks, please know, because I'm wired the way I'm wired, I never met you. There's no conversation prior to. I really love to just move in the mystery. And even thinking about, you're now the ninth guest, right? Since Soulful Mondays. And only until you in the moment of silence was ask her the last digit of her birth year. I intuitively perceived, and here you are, the gatekeeper. So it's like you're already bringing your gifts by opening up another gate here to Soulful Mondays. And then I hear you speak about the culture, the traditions, the indigenous knowledge, medicine, ancientness that you come from. And because of various, well, how do you say it? There's no other way to filter it. Predatory colonization and all of that, that the gifts that you're here to reclaim, which I rang the bell in honor of that, standing at the gateway, in the lineage of those people that maybe you grew up with, because I know several cultures, because I've always also gone into indigenous cultures. It's what I do in the ancestral world and the traveling that I've been around the world, is to go into. It's why I don't read about the culture. I don't read about the geography. I don't read about a people. I let the culture actually morph my ignorance, because that's what there's no other way to filter that for myself. It is ignorance. But over time, I've been able to elevate that ignorance. And then what I heard you also just say, Judith, is you stepping into the empowerment, the ownership, and reclaiming your blood is also a reset in the ancestral karma, possibly of your lineage, to what your tribe people might have felt was a secret and a curse.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I see you. I want to see you here, truly.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
It has I get shivers, right?
I just get chills too. We're gonna bring the bell again. I got waves going all up and down my body. Thank you. Wow.
I do too. But yeah, it's very difficult. It's been challenging. I'm trying to stray away from the words hard and difficult, because it's a mindset, and we're programmed to all this nonsense that at the end has nothing to do with us, right? It's this little golden cage in our mind that we're set to be free. But yeah, it's I grew up, I was born and raised here in Boston. And then when I was about 9 or 10, we moved back to the island of Puerto Rico, and I stayed over there for about 10 years before coming back. But the background in my family is very American. So it's very American. It is not traditional. We keep ties to what our culture is. It's like this, so if you're American, you're perceived this way. If you're Puerto Rican, you're perceived that way. If you're Mexican, you're perceived with this culture, right? This perceivement of what culture is. But in reality, what all of us have for culture is what we could grasp onto, and sometimes not under the healthiest circumstances, but it's what developed and what we're striving to keep as an identity as people. But so I have this Puerto Rican culture, but it's very American, very go to school, education, corporate job, 9 to 5, raised up Catholic. I fought that till the death. Like I declared myself an atheist at 5. I was like, I will not go through this. Not that I don't have anything against any spiritual belief, right? I don't. You believe in what you believe in, but to me, I was like, this is not my path, not my path. But very corporate. So although you have the gifts, there's communication with the spirit worlds. I'm 6. I'm seeing my deceased uncles sitting next to me. I'm receiving messages of family members that are about to pass. I'm just all this. And in our family, I love that you say that it's seen as a curse, because it is, because it's like you have a gift, but it's hush. You don't say that in public. You don't talk about that.
You keep the secret inside the home. Absolutely.
Yeah, you keep it in. And so it was difficult when I decided to step into it. I'm known as the rebel and the black sheep of the family, but aren't we all who decide to follow our path, who break free from the common path? But it was difficult, because not only am I stepping into a path, but the shadow work that you go through, that you feel that you're betraying your own and betraying yourself, but it's not. It's the whole journey and a whole healing. situation that you go through, but I stepped into it. And once I stepped into it and went down this road, I started finding mentors and teachers, and things started to develop. And as I stepped in, I suffered a lot from the fear of being ostracized from my own and from community. And that fear, oh, that is paralyzing.
Mhm.
But I stepped into it anyways, and stepping into it, going through the hurdles of it, I pulled my sister into it. Eventually, my mom came into it, and then extended family coming into it, and then friends starting coming into it. And it was like, you start with yourself, and it's so true how you go 7 generations back, 7 generations forward, because you're just breaking all these things, and people, you become the change that you're seeking to experience, but you step into your power, and people, it happens. People just come together.
Beautiful.
Until I'm here today. And
Wow.
now that's what I'm dedicated to do. Every spiritual worker has their, I don't like saying niche. Did I say I used to be very corporate, so that's my back
Sure,
language is
sure.
like business lingo. So if it
Yeah,
comes out,
yeah.
I'm like,
No, that's fine. Yeah, definitely. All is
but I'm
welcome here.
but I everybody works in their own, I guess, calling per se. My specialty with working is people who want to find themselves again, who want to come into their authentic power, who wants to um, come back into their ancestral wisdom and knowledge, who just wants to come back, break all these fake bonds and mental cages, and like be okay being yourself. And that's when I use ancestral healing practices, because that's just what they're there for. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
where the practice comes from. I've noticed that it does not matter where your ancestral practice comes from. The end goal is to heal your soul and bring you back into, being in one with the perfection of everything that already is, which is just be yourself and bring your medicine. That's the only way we bring our medicines, is by being ourselves and accepting who we are. And
Yeah,
I
that
just find
authenticity.
yeah, and that's the biggest hurdle, because of the
Yeah,
mindsets
and you
when you
know
grow
what
up and your culture.
yeah, and listening to you, like literally just 25 minutes ago, I was out in the back swimming, and I was having a conversation with my elder who's been mentoring me for 35 years. Hello, Mary. She watches the Soulful Mondays. But we were having a conversation about family, about community, just actually what you're saying, and about breaking the binding dysfunctional loyalties. So, in the ancestral work that I also do, this is part of working with spiritual entrepreneur, healer practitioners, and leaders, is coming and listening to that soulful GPS, is what I like to call it, right? And soulfully navigating to that authentic self. It's kind of like, we hear this in many of the places that we might listen to, is who am I? The capital IAM, right? Like, who am I? And just keep peeling that back and peeling that back. Well, in some of that work, it also requires us, and it reminds me of Carolyn Mace's work when she talks about the 3 esteems. So there's the tribal esteem. And so we take on these loyalties, these binding loyalties. And I was just saying to my elder Mary, even to the point that we'll take on these loyalties long after the ancestors are passed. We're still carrying. So when I too work with the ancestral karma of whoever my clients are, then there's an education about how they're acting out these particular pattern behaviors from a dysfunctional binding loyalty. And we're not being of service to the ancestral realm by carrying these on. This is like a thwarted view. And it's amazing, that inner child, that child that's so resilient, because I've done inner child work for 30 years, shadow work for 15 of that. And even a person who is sexually abused will still honor that ancestor. So it's very deep. And also, I just want to like see you here for a minute. talking about, this indigenous medicine that you come from, and the Puerto Rican and the Spain, and then also living in Boston, Massachusetts. As I just said to you, I'm a Llewellian, born in Lowell, Mass, so we're not too far away. So there's a lot of parts, pieces, and components. But really to see you here for the first time, because as we know, I'm just meeting you, but to stay the course with what I'm hearing you not say is listening to that authentic soul driver in you as a gatekeeper to say, I'm going this way and I'm going to bring it and do it. And if I get ostracized or, because I'm blowing up in a sense, in a good ways, I'm not going to hold the secret that binds and has binded the ancestral line here, and bringing forth the gifts to the world. And then your people, your mother, started to come on board, come on the train. And what an honoring, really, what an honoring. And, thank you for doing that. And thank you for listening. Truly, yeah. I'm gonna ring the bell here for you, my sister. Because, you said it about not the word burden or whatever, but really carrying that's heavy. That's heavy because it's kind of bigger than you, huh?
Yes, it is.
It's been bigger than you.
Yeah. Now that you use the words in the moment, there's that, when I was going through it, there are no words. I'm like, okay. That's why I was always on the fence back then, because I was like, okay, I either step into this knowing that I could lose all of my closest connections, everything. It's like you're gonna step out. And although maybe intellectually it's not understood, but on a feeling point, it feels like you're about to take a stand and you could just probably be stoned to death, or shunned, or ignored, or just, or just dismissed from what you know. It's that to be ostracized from what's closest to you is it's crippling. It's very crippling. But I don't know. I took my little gypsy nomadic bohemian soul and I was like, we're gonna jump. I have this thing where I'm like, if it's meant to be, I'm gonna be okay. If not, I'm screwed, but I'm gonna jump it anyways, and we're gonna figure it out as I go. Because I don't know. That also helped me develop the biggest faith in the world, because I'm literally going like, when you walk in the dark and it's just one step at a time, you have no idea where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
You're just walking in faith. And so I did. And
trust
in the knowing.
Vulnerability. Yeah, it's
half of the time was when spirits are like, oh, I got your back, and I'm like, I could be walking into the biggest trap and I am just good. I have no idea, but I'm gonna walk anyway, because it's tempting, right? As a human being, I mean, those spirits that work with me, they might just grab me by the hair and be like, oh my God, this woman. Because at every step of the way, I'm like, I'm not going, I'm going, I'm not going, I'm going. Eventually, I just throw myself, and they're like, oh.
Yeah, full acquiesce, full surrender.
Yeah, but I did it fighting, to tell you the truth. That's what I'm dedicated to now, because I understand people where they are when they want to come back into themselves and reclaim their magic. I'm not a big proponent of teaching, I say, my magic or my practices. People who are interested in the practices that I practice, I teach. But my main goal is to empower people with their magic, with their practices. There's a lot of people who don't feel a connection to their ancestors. Like these days, you say indigenous and this and that, and it seems like, oh, well, I have to have indigenous blood, I have to have African blood, but it's like it doesn't matter where you're from. You have ancestors. It doesn't matter where you're from. I want to take away that, where I'm from, but it's sometimes it seems to overshadow people who don't have maybe a connection to indigenous or African or something like that. I'm looking for a politically correct way to say this. Have you?
Well, yes, it's no, yeah, you're right on with that. It's if you're not from indigenous, then there's can be who are you to think that you can burn
Yeah,
this sage or do this ritual? And I'll tell
yeah,
you, because this is who I am. I've actually had people ask me, like, in a very just students that I've taught various things, and that then have been questioned by other indigenous people, like, who are you to think that you can do this, or this? And so my students have come back to me and said, like, Ian, like, how do you get away with it? And it's like, well, I don't think it's about getting away with it, but that's the only terminology they could use.
yeah,
This is actually a great point. And what I've said to people who ask me, want to know, is, first of all, I know where I come from in my ancestral patterns, behaviors, lineage. They say my mother was a baby of 18. Now I'm hearing just recently, well, there was only 10. So it's like, okay, there were twins that died and whatever. But I know I come from a long family, and the family has suicides, ODs, depression. I'm 33 years clean and sober this December, 32. I can't remember, whatever. But I know that I'm a reset to that pattern, that suicide, that OD, that depression, through soulfully listening and navigating, right?
yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
one thing. And then through my whole childhood, it's like I have my oldest elder that's been mentoring me for 35 years, but then I have my longest elder who's been mentoring me and was my mother's best friend. So she knew me when I was in my mother's womb. So
Mhm.
my whole childhood, I was mentored by elders, always in a table circle with elders. And then I went into traveling to indigenous cultures, tribes, to be educated and reset in my own ignorance, as I said
Mhm.
earlier. And so, what till I say, in the most honoring way, whether it's Africa, Brazil, Costa Rica, Guatemalan grandmothers, Hopi grandmothers, that qualifies me to then stand up and own my medicine in honor of my ancestors, but then also in honor of the cosmic laws, the the spirit of fire, the flame of God that burns inside of me, to encourage people to bring their gifts. And I love what you say, to bring their gifts out to the world, because we all know that we've had some form of coming in from multiple soul lives. When we drop into this soul conscious body, we've forgotten all that we're here to remember. So this is, life here on earth is the great mysterious gift of remembrance, and
That's true.
resetting and releasing the ancestral. I had a client years back. I don't need to go in the story. I tracked 27 generations for her. So for me in the ancestral work, I actually go back 13 generations. And going back 13 generations and then go forward, so that we don't have to continue the dysfunctional binding loyalties of just that, the dysfunction. And what I have felt and have been shared and told from indigenous grandmother shamans and such, the work that we do actually does benefit those that have gone before us and the 13 generations that's yet to come. So, you're right on with that.
I agree. I agree. I have I'm used to being seen as a radical person in places, but
You're my radical sister.
that's why I'm usually like, open the mouth, don't open the mouth. We're just gonna open the mouth. Forget it. It's like we just go down the rabbit hole. um, but yes, I love how you say it, and the way that you take your students, and that dynamic when people are felt like, I don't have a right, or I'm not connected to something ancestral, just because I tend to find that people gravitate towards me, that they're looking for that connection
Yeah.
and that permission. And all the work that I've done, because I work a lot with plant spirits, elemental spirits, and sun and moon deities, and just things that has become my cosmovision, as I call it. My vision of creation is my own, as we all hold our own. Um, but I work a lot with spirits, and where I'm able to stand today is that there is such a disconnect, even when looking towards ancestral practices. It's like, number one, there's no one right practice, right? We were placed into this cradle of earth. Mother Earth is the medicine. We just have people who adapted and therefore became cultured in the region that they lived in. And so the plants and the water spirits and everything else became their practice regionally from that place. But you have the same in all different regions. So at the end, in the end game for me, it's like it is one medicine. It is one place. It's just we have different holders from different places, but one isn't better than the other. And if you're from this region, it doesn't mean that you can't practice that region, because earth is earth, and matter is matter, and spirit is spirit. There is no this disconnecting like mindset that we have. And people are like, well, I don't have ties. And I'm like, well, of course you have ties. You're
Yes.
alive.
Mhm.
Your people lived on this earth. I don't care what part of the earth they lived in. You lived here. And even from the spirit, well, the creation, I could go deep down in there, but even from a creation standpoint, this medicine here is just to bring you back into yourself. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
which one. So
Mhm.
if you burn sage, you burn sage. If you burn juniper, you burn juniper. If you burn rosemary, then it's rosemary. Where do you live? What do you have access to? All of a sudden, some people even feel ostracized from even getting help because of this whole. I don't know where we're going today with the development of our society and everything else. It just seems like it wants to get better, and at the same time, it's creating a whole new bunch of problems and separation. But it's like it doesn't matter where you are. I want to bring these walls down, even between ancestral practices and indigenous practices. It's like let us just pass that. We keep talking about
Yeah,
walls, and it's like stop creating them.
that's
Just
right.
we're human.
Beautiful. Right. And,
We're human.
we know these times, 2020 has spun the earth, however, it's flipped things. So, this is a great point to, one of my missions is several, as we all have, and is, every single, it's what I say when we take that moment of silence in 11:11, right? This is 11:11. I share this for years with my elder. And this is a moment to pray for humanity's soul and all the souls that have gone before us, right? Well, it's like I also say on Soulful Mondays is I'm not just interested, and I say this to my assistant and my admin, Sage, I'm not just interested to speak to like-minded people. On Soulful Mondays, I also want to have tea with the VPs in corporate America, because I too come from a corporate model. I was a director of safety for a company, 23 stores, 3 states, and walked away from that whole corporate world. And now it's interesting in my Global Firewalk Institute, I'm being brought back to corporate America with the tools and the medicine of utilizing the spirit of fire. And, but at the end of the day, exactly what you said is each person standing on this earth from the soles of their feet. There's a little, so here's a takeaway for those that are listening. We'll also ask Judith to give us a little ritual takeaway. But one of the things I do with many of my students, and you can all do it right now or listen later, is on the soles of your feet, take a pen or a pencil, and on the bottom, just write a mouth on your left foot and then your right foot. Do left first, then right. Put a mouth and then take several steps, breathing from the soles of your mouths to your feet, because we know that the feet connects to all the meridians and organs. That's also why we walk the fire, right? Process. And allow that breath from Earth Mother to soles of your feet, and start breathing from this place. Go outside, walk in the grass. We know that scientists have actually proved if you do this barefoot on the sand of the ocean, it's called earthing. And if you do this in the grass, this is a great way to minimize stress, anxiety. What also might you say for the viewer watching now or later in these times? What suggestion might you give for somebody to connect with their soulful truth and their gifts to bring to the world? Because I really feel like this was one of the nuggets in 2020 for those humans that chose to take that global pause that we all got spun into. Comically, we've called this forth, though, for sure. Which we are clearly in a global karma right now. And the karma work I've been doing for the last 25 years, ancestrally and this life. So, what we've been invited to do is go home in this global homecoming to then bring our gifts to the world. So what might you, in your wisdom, have to say to the viewer here?
I would say, which probably sounds a lot easier than doing, is begin by honoring yourself. Honor who you are. Honor yourself and love yourself to the point where you feel okay with who you are, wanting what you want, and being where you are. That's what I would say to begin. Just because, and when I mean honor yourself, I mean honor your feeling state, honor the thoughts that are coming towards you, honor if you're tired, to rest. Because sometimes we come into, don't get me wrong, I love ritual work. I'm in a ritual since I wake up until I go to bed, and while I'm dreaming, my life is ceremoniously every single day, very ceremoniously and intentional. But to me, people don't have to get lost in thinking what ceremony is. To honor yourself while you're taking a shower. Like, that's water. Like, you're speaking to the spirit of water. Like, you don't need to be in a river. And I say this, I identify myself a lot as being, we call it a city bruja or a city witch, just because I'm in a city, and the reality is that access sometimes to nature could be quite challenging, especially in this whole, pandemic situation. And even before, if you're in the city, it could be a little challenging to feel comfortable also out in public. Even in your bathroom, even when you're drinking water, even when you're breathing the air that you're breathing, that's the spirit of wind that's flowing through your lungs and coming into contact with you. Even looking out at the sun, you're speaking to the sun and the rays. Even if, okay, so maybe you can't be on the earth. That doesn't mean you're not connecting with the earth. You're eating foods, you're drinking teas. This all comes from the earth. There's so many ways to honor yourself back into yourself. That's the first step that I tell everybody to do, because it's how you start making peace with your truth. And that's the path of where then people stand in their truth and then take action towards their truth. First is with themselves. Even when they go to sleep, you could do it while you sleep. I talk to the wind, and I don't need a window open. I'm breathing, there's air, the spirit of the wind is here.
Right. And what I hear you saying, it's beautiful, Judith. Thank you so much, is having relationship, that it's all relational. So whether it's the wind, the other thing I heard you saying too is the wind, the food, the earth, the water, the sun. This is about having relationship with the prana within and the prana without, because all of these entities, because they are entities, as we know, we both work with the elementals. There's a relationship, there's a contract. There's a ritual that I do with my students where you actually do a contract piece of work with the spirit of the east, the south, the west, the north, the eight directions, but there's actually 16, portals there that you can go into. So having relationship with all that we're actually being held and blanketed, and we're not even conscious many of the moments in our day, can then give us the spine and mind to stand forward, to then take that risk or that plunge or that jump that you talk about, to then say, hey, I have gifts to bring to the world. I think this is too a lot of what I'm hearing from many different people, students, entrepreneur, healer, practitioners that I work with, is that humanity is realizing, as I say in Soulful Mondays, is it's okay to live in the world, folks, but we don't have to be worldly. And it's okay to have a beautiful home and nice things and attain material, whatever you're going to obtain, but we don't have to prostitute and sell our soul to gain that material status, whatever it is. So this is, I'm hearing a lot of this, that humanity, to me, in the dark or whatever frustrating moments, times, we know there's light and there's darkness, that they, as above as below, as within as without, one doesn't exist without the other. But people actually realizing that I have something to offer to the world. Please, I'm encouraging you. I just heard Judith encourage you. Go there, go home, inside, folks, and find yourself to possibly know that you definitely, for sure, have a gift to bring to the world, and that you don't have to prostitute and sell your soul out in the meantime to do it. Because we know that many people we're talking to, get up, go to work, go home, go to bed, get up, go to work. You experience, I experience as a corporate person. And, we just keep selling out. And then there's like this point where the rubber meets the road, or we hit the wall, and it's like, this just isn't working. I'm hearing more and more of humanity speak about the everyday life that I'm living, acting out, just isn't sustaining the soul.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We do know, well, from this point of view, that what we have, because we are a part of society, and we acted that role too. So we have contributed, and all of us contribute on a daily basis with our choices. But we have created a reality that is not sustainable, because it does not mirror the reality of the way nature sustains itself. And the only way that a human can sustain its life here while we're here is the way nature does. We're cyclical beings. We're seasonal beings. We are not a machine that we have to work 8 hours a day. Like, whoever created that construct was so disconnected from the truth of what a human is, and what our everything where we are. And although it is my belief, because I come always from a very practical sense, because not everybody has journeyed 20 years in a spiritual practice. We have people who don't journey 15 years, who don't get into the learnings and the efficacy in all this that goes into it. So I kind of bring my teachings in a very practical, down to earth, very easy type of way of saying, let me help you ease back into feeling comfortable with yourself. Let me give you practices that you're not, because we do have to sustain ourselves. Yes, you might be in a place where you do have to go out and work 8. So I used to work easily 9, 10, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week. It was ridiculous. Now that I'm looking back, I'm like, that was crazy. Very thing. But it's like, let me ease you back into honoring who you are, and then find your purpose. Because at the end of the day, everybody knows what our purpose is. There is no mystery to us. Everything lives within us. It's just a part of accessing back in. But I just find that there's a lot of inner resistance. There's belief, limiting beliefs. What they brought you up to believe is right and wrong. The cultural belief that you have, the religious belief that you have internalized, And then all that little shadow thing that you have inside, all of that, it just seems to be there's like, there's truth, here I am, and there's all this glop that we're just meant to just start dropping.
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
I started easy, because when I work with people, I don't know if you've noticed, resistance comes up like this.
Oh,
Resistance
sure.
is like,
Yeah.
oh no. And I
Yeah, and
use
that's
pretty
it.
words and they're like, no.
Yeah, that's a great, great point. That resistance, I usually tell people, okay, feel that, lean in, like grab a hold of that, because you can really get some great optimization there in that resistance. The other thing I want to note that you spoke about here is uh, there's a there we've all been brought into a programming. Even if we took the Monday through Friday, the 9 to 5 concept, this is a programming, and that programming has been brought for many, many years. And how to let's just say, keep the masses moving in a way that is in a conformity, right?
Yeah.
So, and you're absolutely right. We got to work. We have to bring in income. We have to pay for our desires, needs, wants, and such. And we can do all of that working this Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And there's also a way that can be done, folks, where you don't have to sell yourself and prostitute yourself. And I'm talking soulfully, I'm not talking sex wise. And
Mhm.
so, as I say, this is real and raw and uncut. So it is what it is. And it requires a jumping off place to take the risk to soulfully navigate, to listen to that, because I did it years ago where I just said, and it was manifested through an injury as a safety director, which is like a comical thing. And it was just a clear, intuitive message that day: you'll never go back. And I was already on a spiritual path, juggling between the two worlds, because myself as well, I've been in this ritualistic mindset my entire life. It's all my mother knew. It's all we did. Um, So, it requires ownership. And that's the difference that I see from, the mundane modernity, which has compliance, versus, the modernity versus, the indigenous culture. The indigenous way is more of an ownership, to step in and own whatever it is that we need to own. Therein lies some of that empowerment. Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you for that. And thank you for that, suggestion, is for people just to, come home and go in. And any last words you'd like? I feel like we've been on for 5 minutes, and oh my God, I look at the time and it's like, it just flies by.
I thought it was like 15 minutes too.
So, and we can go on for as long as we want, but in time and space, what would you, any last words you want to say? And also tell us, you have a website. How can we find you? We'll also put that in your follow-up feed too, so people can have access to you.
So it's in Spanish. It's lacasacurandera.com. And it'll probably blink somewhere around in this video when you guys see it.
Yeah, yeah.
And definitely you can access me through there. There's a section where you can send me an email. The email is lacasacurandera@gmail.com, which is spelling, it's pretty long. So I don't know if you want me to do this online.
No, we'll put a link there
It'll be
so
there.
people will, find you.
So you'll find me there across social media. It is the same. It's La Casa Curandera in English. That's just the healer's healing home. And that's where you can find me to work with me.
And
My
so do you
part,
have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have social media? What do you have?
yes. Thank you for bringing me into being specific. I'm horrible at being specific. I'm
No
good at
problem.
jumping
Me
into
too.
the
I'm
work.
water. Yeah, no problem. Me too.
Yes, it's La Casa Curandera at Instagram, Facebook, and I have the webpage, which is lacasacurandera.com, and I started La Casa Curandera at TikTok, which I just have fun with it, but I'm usually talking about stuff, just random,
Perfect. Awesome.
random, yes.
Excellent. All
But
right.
my parting words to people would be, if you're looking to start the work, or if you're already in the work, it doesn't matter where you are, just welcome yourself back into yourself. That's
Mhm.
the first step. Welcome yourself into yourself, and then the rest is going to unfold.
Yeah, beautiful. Yep. Step in and have ownership.
Mhm.
And just the last thing I want to say, because it's, as you said, it's easier to say something, but when we start to step into listening to the soul's navigation, the soul's GPS, uh, sometimes people, places, and things outside of us will go away. So there's a little grief pocket in that, because the reality is, as we start to, and evolution has its way of transforming, shifting, changing who we are, those people, places, and things that used to think of us to be this way, this way, this way, it's just the natural law. I've said this for years. There's three constants in our lives: change, grief, and growth. Change is inevitable. That then prompts grief because of the change, transformation, the shift. And then the grief will actually bring us into an awakening of growth. Now, it's inevitable: change, grief, growth. What's optional is misery.
Misery.
And
I
that's the
love it.
empowerment. That's the empowerment. So I want to thank you so much. And usually I remember in the beginning, but I didn't. So I just want to also say Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, because today is Lord Shiva Day on Monday, and the indigenous culture of the Hindu people that I've studied and lived with for 9 months there. So I want to thank you, my dear fire sister, gatekeeper, for being present here on Soulful Mondays. It's so nice to finally meet you. And yes, I look forward to any way that the divine choreography will have us collaborate together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, blessings. Have a wonderful day. So I'm going to stop the record. You can stay on for a minute. And thank you, all of the guests listening. Please do like, share, comment, and subscribe to Soulful Mondays and Susa YouTube. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful